Okay, welcome. My name's Kara and I am the Adult Services Librarian, and today we're going to be talking about historic newspapers and how to research using them and how to search them and all of that sort of thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into how to do this. So on our website, we have a tab for research and discovery. So if you click on that, you get a listing of resources, but we do have a page that has more specific resources for newspapers, and that is our newspaper page. So if you click here, all the resources here will be newspapers. So I'm going to be going through each of these resources throughout the presentation today. So I'll just start at the top and go down to the bottom. So first, this is kind of a resource. You can request a newspaper article. So if you are aware of, a date or a publication or, an article or something, you can go ahead and request that we will request us to do the research on your behalf. So to do that, you just click on this request a newspaper article and then fill out this information, and we'll do our best to find that article, provide as much information as you can, and that will really help us to do the research. And if we can find it, we can get a photocopy of it for you, or, something like that. So I'm going to go back to that newspapers page. And the next resource we have here is the LinkCat Newspapers Index. So I'll click on that. So LinkCat is our catalog. And in the catalog, we have all of our books and movies and things, but we also have this index. And here at the library, we've been working on indexing obituaries from the Oregon Observer. So you can search for that. I'm going to go ahead and click on more information just to give you a reminder of what we have. We have obituaries in here from 2019 or 2018 to present day, and we are working on putting in historic obituaries in the index. So we're just going through and putting in that information. So sometimes we'll have some older ones in here, but we definitely have the more recent ones. And then the index also has information from these other newspapers as well. So I'm going to do a search. So I'll go back to this search page. I'm going to do a search for the index. And to do that, I'm going to click on advanced search. And I'm going to search for Miller. And then I'm going to add another line and select publisher and put in Oregon Observer. So what this search is going to do, it's going to search for the word Miller anywhere, and then search for Oregon Observer in the publisher field. So it's effectively searching the index for the Oregon Observer information. So we have several here from the Millers, one from 1886, 1930, 1933, and so forth. So we have some more recent and some older ones. So how the index works is it's not actually the newspaper article. It just gives you the information about the article. So I'll click on John Miller here. And so what it shows here is the date of the newspaper that his obituary appeared in. So that would be January 7th, 1886. And then it just gives us a little bit more what we have. And this is really for the purpose of, genealogy. So you can say, oh, John Miller was 90. and he died in December. So if that, matches up with the information you have, you could contact us and request the obituary. So that is how the obituary index works. Yeah, so there's that. So this resource does have the Oregon Observer in it, but it has other local newspapers in there as well. And other newspapers may have more than obituaries. It may have, wedding announcements or anything like that. So if you're doing historic research in the Dane County area, it's always good to check this index. You may find some hidden gems in here. So I am going to go on to the next resource here, which is WNA. It's the Wisconsin Newspaper Association. Their product is called Access Newspaper Archive. And Access Newspaper Archive is available through BadgerLink. BadgerLink is a resource that provides Wisconsin residents with lots of online resources. And this particular one has newspapers from 2005 to 90 days ago. So it's not super duper historic, but I guess 2005 is 15 years ago, technically, according to math. There is also some select coverage of newspapers from the 19th and 20th centuries. So there are some like more historic resources as well. So I'll go ahead and click on here, and it takes me into the resource, the Wisconsin Newspaper Association Archive of Wisconsin Newspapers. When you are at home, it will ask you for your library barcode number. So you would just enter that, and then you'd be authenticated into this resource. Here is the search interface. They do have a quick video here that you can watch, as well as information on the newspaper title. So if you want to know more about the coverage and things like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck all of the newspapers here, and then just select Oregon Observer. So there we go. If you start typing the name of the newspaper in the search box, it'll pop up, so you don't have to scroll through everything if you don't want to. So now we have just the Oregon Observer checked. And now I'm going to do a search for the Oregon Public Library. And I am going to do this in quotation marks. So this is going to search for this phrase exactly. So if it had Oregon Library, that one wouldn't come up because it has to be Oregon Public Library. With this spacing, with this, all of this. Although I don't believe it is not case sensitive. So you can put uppercase or lowercase and you're fine, but it will be looking for those characters in that order. So I am going to do a search. One of the things with this resource is it can be a wee bit slow, and we will be seeing some evidence of that right now as it loads and loads and loads. That's because it is searching a lot of things. And so we just need to be a little patient. They have been working on the speed. It's been something that they've known is slow for a long time. So it just, is what it is. So something else, even though that was a fairly slow search, it took a while to get the search results. There's a note here. Your search was intentionally stopped because your search criteria was too broad. I have 262 results, but it just stopped searching because it was just a lot, and it would have taken even longer to bring all of the search results up. So these 262 results is not an exhaustive search results. So what we would want to do then is try to make this a more specific search. So we can do that by changing the date range, or changing the search, adding more keywords to make it more specific, or we can also make it so it will only search the front page, so first page only. So I'll go ahead and do that, first page only. So we're going to be searching the Oregon Observer for, in quotes, Oregon Public Library, and then only on the first page. And it's still taking a little bit of time, but once we get some search results, we'll be good to go. So it really does make sense that there's a lot of search results, because I know the library appears in the newspaper every week, so sometimes it's multiple places. So it's probably pretty overwhelmed with that. This time we have 28 entries. It is still saying that the search was stopped because it was too broad, but that's okay. So maybe we only wanted to search from a certain date range. We should put that in and be as specific as possible. I'm going to sort this, change the sort date here. So it'll be the oldest first. And so it only went back to 2017, which is, again, we're probably front page news before that time and just didn't come up in the search because it was too broad. So what we have over here on the left side of the screen is a view of a thumbnail of the newspaper. So we can hover over one week or the next week and see the thumbnail of the front page. You can zoom in and zoom out using this little button here. And then we can also click on Oregon Public Library and it will go to where those words appear. So there's that. If you want to download the page that you are on, you can click on the Adobe Acrobat icon or on the Google Drive icon, and it will download that PDF. So I'll just go ahead and download this to the desktop. And so now I have that PDF of the article. You can then, you have the PDF of it and you can do whatever you want with it, send it in an email or print it. But that is essentially how this works. So that is for the resources, or for the newspapers from 2005 to 90 days ago. They do also have historic newspapers. And so you get to that by clicking on the search historic newspapers. And now you can see the coverage of the historic newspapers by the name of the newspaper and then the dates. So Columbus Republican is from 1872 to 1874. And sometimes, they have a larger range. This one's from 1918 to 1974. And the searching goes the same. You put in the search terms, you can put in the date range or, that sort of thing. Something I didn't say is you can filter by county. So if you only want to search the newspapers that are in a certain county, you can do that. So maybe I'm doing some research on historic happenings in Dane County, and you want to know, what newspapers were available for that time, and we have the Belleville Recorder. So you can do that here in the historic newspapers or in the current newspapers. You can do that as well. So here are the publications that are from Dane County. So that is Archive of Wisconsin Newspapers. That was what I had planned to talk about for that resource. I'll pause now though for questions. Do we have any questions?
Not at this time.
All right. I'll go ahead and close out of these and head on down to the next one. The next one is Chronicling America. And this is a cool resource. This is from the Library of Congress. So this one is a free open resource. There's no authentication to get into it. You don't have to log in. It's just a free thing, which is always cool to find that. So they have newspapers that have been digitized from, they say 1777 to 1963. So they have quite a range of newspapers. And then they have a directory. So if you were looking for the name of a newspaper in a certain, town, but it changed names, so you can use the directory to locate the name and location of the newspaper. So that might be handy in your research. So for this, I'm going to do a couple different search examples. First one is, I'm straight up just going to put my great-grandfather's name in here. He has a unique name, Otis Hallett. So I type Otis Hallett in and click on go, and we're just going to see what comes up. It's nice because he does have a unique name, and so I can do searches for him, and often the search results are him. So for instance, let's look here. This article is from Wolf Point, Montana, and I know Otis lived and worked in Montana. This is in the gallery view, so that is how the search results are being displayed. You can go to a list view, and then it will show kind of like the citation of it if you would prefer that way. So there's that. So Glasgow is actually the town in Montana that he lived in. So these all seem pretty good to me. That these are probably Otis. So I'm just going to head back to the gallery view because I kind of like seen that thumbnail. And I'll click on one of these here. So the red bit is actually, this is where the search terms show up on this page in the local brevity section. So I'm scrolling in, and here you can see this is scrolling in on the area. So you can find where you are on the page, and you can actually click and drag here. So I just clicked and dragged with that arrow, and then we can go in. So George S. Hallett of Fargo, North Dakota, a brother of Otis Hallett of the firm Norris, Hurd, Rhodes, and Hallett, spent a few days in Glasgow this week visiting at the home of his brother. So Otis's brother visited him. I guess that's newspaper worthy, but here we go. You'll find in the historic newspapers a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, so and so is visiting," and it made the newspaper. So it's kind of fun. But for genealogy, this is pretty cool because I did know that Otis's brother was named George. I didn't know he was in Fargo, North Dakota. So I mean, especially at this time. So this is from 1921. So now we have pinpointed where George lived in 1921. Also, it says Otis was a lawyer. And here it says he works for the firm of Norris, Hurd, Rhodes, and Hallett. So it appears that he was a partner in the law firm, which I didn't know. Family lore is that he was a circuit lawyer and traveled around Montana doing various cases. So this is new information for that. So there's that. If you want to clip this article, they have these scissors. And then you can download the image from here. So this kind of clips that bit of the article, what's being displayed, and then you can download this as a JPEG. I don't need to do that. It also gives you a persistent link. So you could share this link with your friends and family. Say, hey, look, I found this article. You know, that's nice that way as well. The other thing, so that was when I clicked the clip with the scissors. I believe if we hit PDF, it will give you a PDF of the entire page. Yes. So if you want to download the page, that is also an option. Downloading the entire page, while it is, you know, larger and takes up more storage on your computer, it can be nice because you essentially have the citation here now because you know it's from the Glasgow Courier. It has Glasgow Courier up here. It has the date, December 23rd, 1921, as well as the page. So you have everything you need for a citation. I am going to head back. This sort of resource is really helpful for genealogy, especially if you have a name and a location, and preferably a name that is unique, like Otis. The other thing I like to do in here is do advanced searches. I'm gonna head back to the home page and then, because I remember that, I guess that's it. Okay. So I'm gonna do a search for Titanic, for, you know, the Titanic. So the Titanic sank April 14th, April 15th in 1912. So I'm gonna put that in our search. 1912, where are you? There you go. April 14th to April 15th. Just kind of get the around that time. And then I'll do a search. So I'm searching all of, you know, the states. So if you wanted more like something from a specific area or a specific newspaper, you can do a search here. But I'll just do Titanic from this date range, and I'll do my search. And then we have all of these really cool newspapers. Newspapers, you know, so this is the front page of the Iowa Daily Gate City and Iceberg wrecks Titanic. Most thrilling story of the sea in modern times told by wireless. So, you know, here we have a very historic event. And then this is the primary source about it. So this is a really great resource for this as well. So just, you know, maybe your ancestor or something lived through, well, the Titanic, or, you know, it just gives you an idea of what it was like to live in that time. All right, so I am going to head back to our resources. So next up is newspapers.com. And this is another resource that is available through Badgerlink. So this has historic newspapers from the 1700s to the 2000s, and it contains thousands of newspapers. So I'll go ahead and select that. So for this one, I thought I'd show a little bit different kind of search. I am going to click on papers. So, I mean, you could do just like a name or keyword in here and see what you got, or search by location. I'm going to click on papers up here. And then in the left-hand panel, there it is, it's loading. You can just click on a state or a location or enter a date range or something like that. I'll click on Wisconsin. And I'm going to do some historic research here. So I am, I'm a little bit of a true crime person who likes true crime. So I did a little research, and there was a man, John McCaffrey, who was the last person to be executed in Wisconsin. So I wanted to look up some historic newspapers about him and see about that story. So that was in 1851. So what I'm going to do is put in his name here, John McCaffrey, and just hit go and see what we come up with. So we're getting some newspapers from 1952. Then we're also getting some older ones too. So there's a clipping here from 1851, which is for the death warrant for John McCaffrey. And he then was referenced in other later newspapers because after he was executed, Wisconsin abolished the death penalty. So it was kind of like a big deal. And later, in the 70s and whatnot, whenever the death penalty came up in public conversation, it was always associated back with this last execution. So that's why it's coming up in more recent newspapers as well. And then also, John is just triggering the search result as well. So I'm going to go here. This is from the Daily Free Democrat in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And click on here. And this is the death warrant. Governor Dewey says the Madison Democrat has signed the death warrant for John McCaffrey, convicted of the murder of his wife at Kenosha, and appointed Thursday, the 21st day of August next for the execution of the sentence of the court. So that was that. So it's always really interesting to see these sorts of things, because that was actually like what was happening then. And I don't know, I just feel like this strong connection to the past and to history, and it all of a sudden makes history come alive. So I had fun. I had fun in doing that, even though it's a little morbid. It's very morbid. Okay, so we saw the little clipping here. I wanted to mention you can also clip these sorts of articles. I'll open this one here. So if you wanted to save this, here is an article. It's from 1952. So 100 years later, it was the article about the story that ended the death penalty in Wisconsin. So here is it's a good article about the history of that. But if you wanted to clip this, you could, but you do have to have an account. So you can create an account and then clip that, or you can print and save like the entire page or portion of a page. So you would just select that portion of the page and print it. So the clipping, so you can save whatever you want. But what the clipping does is it saves it to your account so you can get back to it quickly. So if it's something you wanted to reference again and again, you may want to create the account and do the clipping that way. But if you're just interested in printing out the image for your records or sharing it with friends and family, you can do that with the print and save. Okay, so that is this resource. That is newspapers.com. And then I think we're going to be done a little bit early today because I only have one more resource to cover, which isn't really a great resource for historic research. And that is US News Streams. So this is, again, through BadgerLink, and it is newspapers from the 1980s to kind of present day. And it includes a lot of newspapers, but only from the 1980s forward. It's not really, you're not going to get the content from the 1850s or something like that. So again, I'll click on this. And so I am going to do another search for a historic event. And I'll do that by going on advanced search. And this time I'm going to search for the Berlin Wall. I was trying to think of current events. I was trying to think of big events that happened in the 1980s. So I picked Berlin Wall. So for this, I'm going to limit to full text. So if you don't limit to full text, you'll get citations. So then it would just be like the index where the link cat newspapers index, where you just have the citation, but you don't actually have the content. So I want the content. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And then publication date. So you can do the last 7 days, 30 days, whatnot, or on this date. So I'm going to select on the date, and it was November 9th, 1989. So that is all I'm going to put in here for that. So we're looking for the Berlin Wall, November 9th, 1989. And here are the search results. So we have Los Angeles Times, we have the Washington Post, we have Wall Street Journal, I thought the Wall Street Journal. So we do have some, I thought the New York Times would also come up too. But it looks like maybe we don't have coverage from the New York Times for this one. But I'll go ahead and do the Washington Post. So if you click on the article, it'll open. There is also the abstract details and the full text. So I think that all shows up when we click on it. Yes. So this resource is a little different than the previous ones because it doesn't show the PDF full text. It doesn't show how it appeared in the newspaper, in the columns with pictures and stuff. What you get is the full text. So, you get the content, but it's not the same as looking at the newspaper because you only get the content. So that's something here, but you do get like the New York Times and the Washington Post and things like that. So it's kind of a trade-off for what you're getting and how you see it. So that is what I have for today, covering our newspaper resources. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. I've done a little bit of this searching in the past, mostly interested in genealogy, obituaries, and then kind of historical point of view for some of the ancestors in the areas they lived in. So it seemed so far newspapers.com has seemed to be I've had the best luck with that.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.